Yo, what's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world. Talk about the team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. All righty, another live show. How we doing today? So, we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about some of the OTA stuff going on. We're going to talk about some injuries that are kind of still lingering around. We're going to talk about maybe some position changes, some position battles, and we're going to look into what some of the people in the mainstream media have to say about the Raiders. Now, normally, I really don't dive into what the mainstream media says about us because, for the most part, it's just the same canned nonsense that everyone just spreads around and everyone just kind of like, recycles the same stories and the same verbiage over and over again. It's just, I don't know. I think it's kind of sad, honestly. I think it's pretty weak. And I think that a lot of the people who write about the Raiders in mainstream media just look at highlights and look at stats. They don't see the team or the game beyond that, which is a shame because I think there's a lot to offer beyond, what you see on a highlight reel and in a stat sheet when it comes to the Raiders, especially this season. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes and with a lot of heart. All right, guys, come on. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. You know what? Let's get into that. South Dakota Raider, what's up, baby? How's it going in South Dakota? Yeah, man. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share it. Hey, this guy's going live. Share it to your timeline. Share it to whatever, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't know, TikTok, whatever the heck you guys got. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at social media. I want to be better, but I'm not. I'm just not good at it. So I try to find these programs where you just kind of like put stuff in and then they'll just do it themselves. It's a headache. I know I would probably be a lot further off than I am, but I don't know. Anyway, big thing we're talking about right now is the OTAs. The last couple of weeks, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly did some pressers. Also, you see like Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz, AJ Cole, Brock Bowers, GENO SMITH. There's a lot of guys that were giving these little pressers talking about, Jacoby Myers talking about, what's happening in Raiderland, what's happening with the team and everything sounds pretty good. What I do like is Funky Hairman. What's up, baby? How's it going? One thing that I do like, and I see it's a common theme happening in all these interviews, is they're talking really high about this rookie class, about these guys, not just the draftees, but even the UDFAs who are coming in, and they all have their heads screwed on straight. They're all about the work. There's no drama. There's no divas, none of that stuff. Everyone gets in there. Now, there is a little bit of funkiness happening on with Jack Besh. I don't know that he had signed yet. Maybe you guys want to help me out with that, but I'm not quite exactly sure. It was, I believe, Cleveland and Houston guaranteed their second-round draft picks, their full contract, which I don't know that's been done before. And so that's, what a lot of the second-rounders are kind of holding out for is that guaranteed contract. And we'll see what happens with that. I don't see it being a huge issue moving forward. I think that the contracts that we have right now for the second rounders are pretty solid, but you never know, man. Maybe they're trying to set a precedent moving forward with second rounders. We'll see about that. So one of the things that I want to focus on initially right now is just the attitude happening right now with OTAs, the attitude happening with the team right now. This is the thing that we need to really focus on, because when, as a group, as a team, you're focused and you have intent every single step of the way, whether it's a team meeting, right? Whether it's a positional meeting, whether it's film study, on the practice field, doing individual drills, team drills, whatever it is, if your intent is to get better, you more than likely will get better. Now, it may seem like it's like, well, duh, of course you want to get better. No, it's not always the case. Trust me. I mean, in my playing days, like I was young, like a lot younger than these guys. And we didn't always, go out there. I mean, even some of these guys go out there and kind of just half-ass it. And in the past, at least. And maybe their goal that day really wasn't to get better that day. It was kind of just to get through it. And with the whole competition thing, it's just all about competition. Pete Carroll did this every single season at USC. The spring season came for spring practice. No depth chart. Everything is wiped clean. Everyone starts from zero. Everyone fights for a job. And for the most part, this is what is happening here with the Raiders. Now, of course, there's some guys that are going to be starting, but for the most part, those guys are going to be the ones that go out there, and unless they're just really kind of pushed to the limit by the guys that are kind of coming up from behind, I really think that a lot of the starting positions on this team are pretty much set, and it is quite an upgrade from what we had in the last couple of seasons, and especially at some key positions. And we're going to get to that in a little bit when we talk about the Fox Sports analyst talking about the Raiders. Another thing I want to look at here is injuries, man. The Christian Wilkins news was kind of a blow. It's a little bit too early to say that he's going to be out all season, right? But it doesn't look good. When you had surgery damn near, what was it, 7 months ago, and even more than that, maybe. But a long time ago, you had surgery like 7 months ago, and you're still not right on a surgery that should take 8, maybe 10 weeks at the max to heal, where you can go back and start rehabbing. Well, from all accounts, he was rehabbing and he was doing work. Christian Wilkins was, on his foot. And with these guys, when these guys are that big, man, foot injuries really scare me. They scare me a lot because these guys put a lot of pressure and torque on their feet to change direction and stop and start and move laterally and then cut. It's just a hard deal to get through sometimes. And I would rather just wait a little bit and go and slow play this until Christian Wilkins can come back 100%, because I think he's a valuable asset to this team at 100% for sure. Anything less than that, I think we can live without him for a little while until we get him back up there. An issue, the two main problems to come with the Liz Frank fracture, or was it Jones Frank? Whatever it is. The foot injury that Christian Wilkins had. There's a couple of serious issues. It's not growing properly. It's not healing properly. It's not healing at all. It's healing crooked. But the two main ones are nerve damage, right? Or some sort of compartment syndrome. Compartment syndrome is like the swelling of the muscles in a certain area after a trauma. And that can be really dangerous because the swelling of the muscles swell to a certain point, and then it cuts off circulation. And basically whatever's beyond that dies, basically, right? So if you got compartment syndrome in your foot, that could be really dangerous because there go the toes and then part of the foot probably too. So those are the two most dangerous things to happen. And they may work hand in hand, because if the muscles swell on the foot, it could, maybe choke off some of the nerves a little bit. And it could lose some feeling. I remember when I was having surgery on my mouth, and the dentist, hit my tongue, like hit a nerve that was going into my tongue, and just like half my tongue was numb for like 2 months. And he's like, dude, the nerves they'll grow back, but just give it some time. My tongue was numb for like 2 months. So that's something similar could be happening to Christian Wilkins as far as the nerve damage / compartment syndrome. How do you fix it? You got to go back in and you got to fix the, whatever was not right with the surgery the first time. And hopefully it heals properly this time. So, it's concerning, but I'm not overly concerned about it. Although it was alarming to hear Pete Carroll overly optimistic normally talk about how he's not in a good spot right now and he has a long way to go. But we do have a lot of time. We have some time until 3 months or so until the first game of the season. Also, our good buddy, one of the sleeper players who has come around in Raider Nation this season, who were it's a little bit seem to be interested. The rugby player Lakitasi was moved from defensive tackle to offensive guard. It doesn't make a lot of sense in this respect, where you see a guy like Christian Wilkins, who's not back on the field, right? And he's a defensive tackle. Why wouldn't you get more people in the defensive tackle? I don't know. Maybe the Raiders are comfortable with who they have at defensive tackle. They just drafted 2 guys who can play tackle. You got Butler, you got a couple other guys in there. Tyree Wilson has played a little bit of tackle as well. So that could be a reason why he was moved, or he was able to be moved. Another reason could be they just felt like his movement skills were a little bit more suited for the offensive side. When you take a look at a rugby, a lot of the blocking schemes that they do, it's more on the offensive side. They don't really hand fight a lot, to like move, like swim past guys or rip, push, pull, rip. They don't really have a lot of pass rusher moves in rugby. It's mostly blocking and, stacking, shedding, stuff like that. And a lot of that's more in tune to the offensive side. Dude, the dude's like 6'6", 350, 21 years old, just a freaking stud. I think he could be a guy that can be special if we're able to develop him, because he definitely has the skills. You saw him play. If you've seen him play rugby, he's carrying the ball and just, bowling over people. He's got movement skills, and he's got nice feet. So if you're able to teach him a little bit of technique and teach him to fight with his hands a little bit better, tell me about it, bro. If he got a touch of the beaties, that could be a big problem for him, for sure. That circulation is going to be tough. But one of the things we've got to take a look at here is with Lakitasi is also, if you have a player who's a little bit more raw, they're a little bit more on the radar if they're on the defensive side. If you got a raw offensive lineman prospect, that it's going to take a year or 2 to get this guy up and running. So maybe they're stashing him because they want to keep him on the practice squad or whatever for Lakitasi. But you never know, man. It's up in the air right now what's happening with him. I think it's a good move to put him at guard. Strengthen the offensive line and just get the best 8. You probably need 8. You dress 8 offensive linemen, so 7 or 8. So you want to have that good 8, and whoever's the best 8, man, we'll find a place for him for sure. All right, what's going on here, guys? Who we got in the room now? Rick Rock, what's going on, baby? How's it going? Who else is here? We got the likes. We liking this thing or what? What's going on here? Okay, here's what we're going to do, fellas. We're going to go through a few segments of and the reason why I picked these specific segments is because it's not the same just boring stuff that we hear over and over again from me. I'm not a huge mainstream media fan, just because I don't respect a lot of the people on air, because as people, yes, but they're just, most of the time, they're script readers. They have guys that write their stuff for them, or they have the guys that do all their stats for them, and they're not sitting there grinding away tape. A couple of the guys are, but a lot of them aren't. They're just sitting there. They're like newscasters, and that's fine. But let's just call it what it is. And when you have people writing your stuff for you, it tends to bleed into like other shows and other people saying the same. So they all end up saying the same stuff. This is a lot different, maybe a different look at things when it comes to an outlook on the Raiders. They're talking about a little bit different stuff here and there. So I'm going to keep hopping in and out on this stuff when I want to talk about something. But we're going to go ahead and take a listen to this real quick here. This is from, I believe it's NFL Live on ESPN.
expectations? We got Carroll and Smith 2.0, right? Then we got a little Chip Kelly thrown in there. How do you see this working?
Credibility. Okay, that's the one word. There's an old Jimmy Johnson line. He told Bill Belichick one time that in the NFL, 24 of the 32 teams just get out of your way. And more often than not, over the past, let's say, 23 years, the Raiders have been one of those teams that just gets out of your way. Let the good teams handle the playoffs, winning playoff games, that sort of thing. The Raiders are never in that hunt. I think what Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly are going to build, along with GENO Smith, instant credibility, 8-9 win seasons. You'll never get 15 wins out of this crew, but you're going to get constant competition. I think the AFC West is going to be probably the hardest division in football because there's no easy outs because of teams like the Raiders improving. GENO Smith had 40 touchdowns of over 10 air yards in his 2 seasons under Pete Carroll. The Raiders last year had 9 total of those, okay? That's the floor being raised. Chip Kelly reinvented himself in the last few years of the college game. He is not the up-tempo guy anymore.
That's one of the things I really wanted to focus on. And this is one of the points that I have not heard very much coming from media. Chip Kelly is not the same guy he was the last time he was in the NFL. Everyone, you have to drink smoothies and you have to, lose 30 pounds and everyone has to be go, 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 go. It's just not that time of game, and you saw last season with the Buckeyes at Ohio State, he had 2,000-yard rushers. The good thing about what Chip Kelly was able to do at Ohio State is that type of game translates extremely well to the NFL. The good thing about what we're listening to right now is the media is starting to grab on to the fact that these upgrades that the Raiders have made are massive upgrades. He's talking about 8-9 wins. 8-9 wins is double what we had last season. Now, double what we had last season on top of getting a lot of our hurt players back and then getting a much improved offense because of the players that we know at quarterback and stuff like that. I mean, it's not far-fetched. I can see I don't agree with this group never winning 15 games because honestly, you never know. I think maybe playing in the AFC West can hinder us from winning 15 games because it's a freaking murderer's row, basically. But I wouldn't count this team from winning, well into the double digits simply because they are more, like he was saying, the instant credibility is we're not going to get out coached just by walking on the field. Last season, every time we walked on the field, we got out coached. We got out strategized, right? We got out maneuvered. And, that's just not in game planning, but also in the offensive side. And I really wanted to highlight this point about Chip Kelly because I think it's a point that can be overlooked at times. Chip Kelly is used to, wherever he's gone, he's used multiple backs, okay? So this is going to be a chance for some of these running backs who maybe like a Zamir White, who just really crapped the bed last season, or maybe a Raheem Mostert who was hurt last year and wants to get back to his previous form, or even a Dylan Laube who was, one run of the year, he fumbled it and was a big play for the Steelers. This is going to be a chance for them to really kind of step up behind ASHTON JEANTY because Chip Kelly uses a ton of people in the backfield. Now, it could be like a Tommy Mellott style guy, because I liken Tommy Mellott a lot more to like a Deebo Samuel than like kind of the lazier, Julian Edelman, type of comparison. I think his game is more Deebo than it is Julian Edelman. One thing that we need to focus on moving forward on the offensive side is don't lose fact of how Chip Kelly can get players available in space. If you saw Ohio State play, and they weren't playing bum team. I'm talking about in the playoffs, right? They were playing really good teams with good defenses, and you still were able to see, routinely, these playmakers get the ball in space. So this is why Chip Kelly uses multiple running backs. He likes to use the tight end when he's the pass receiving tight ends. And he was able to get, Egbuka and Smith were able to have big seasons last year. So it wasn't like it was just one or two guys. Multiple guys were really big contributors on the offensive side. So that's something I wanted to highlight. Let's keep listening.
Huddles. He has a run game situation that is a lot better than he did a decade ago. It is a different Chip Kelly.
there is a nuance going on here, which is if we're the Raiders guys and we're driving to the stadium, we have a chance to go win the game. Similar to what Kevin said, Pete Carroll's going to play good defense, and it's ASHTON JEANTY. And one of the things, Hannah, that I really liked about him was how productive he was out of the backfield at Boise State. 80 catches. You're going to see a lot of long handoffs to ASHTON JEANTY, and you're going to play keep away from the likes of what we talked about on the A block. Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert. You want to go win the game, shorten it. Keep those great offenses off the field. And the best way to do that is take the Marshawn Lynch out of Seattle, make him ASHTON JEANTY in Vegas.
Such a great pick. Absolutely loved it. And listen, you want to be entertaining in Vegas, right?
Yep.
So here we go.
Yeah, definitely this offense is going to be a lot more entertaining than last season. That's one thing. So this is something that's a little bit different, a lot of the away from the norm of what people normally talk about. It's, oh, look at Pete Carroll's here. Oh, he's such fun, and look at Maxx Crosby, such a great leader. Yeah, they are that. But these are something that's a little bit different. We're talking about Chip Kelly and his different philosophy on offense than he had his first time around the NFL. It's something that's going to be highlighted. The weapons that we have now are all very multiple. They can do multiple things. They're very valuable as far as being, they're being very varied in their approach. They can do multiple things, right? So one of the things we take a look at here is you got a Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers can receive the ball, no drops last season, and he can also do a trick play in the pass. Tommy Mellott, same thing. He can do a trick play pass, and he can catch the ball, and he showed he had 3,500 yards rushing. The dude can rush the ball, okay? If you saw my video on Tommy Mellott on his tape breakdown, there was some times that he was in the open field and he was juking guys. He wasn't just running fast away from guys. He has some lateral movement as well. I'm talking about running away from guys. He's running away from corners. These are not like JUCO guys. These are like, FCS legit schools with guys who have legit speed in the secondary. And Tommy Mellott is just blowing past him and running away from him. So this guy's got some skill. So you have Tommy Mellott who can do multiple things. You have Raheem Mostert, and you have ASHTON JEANTY, who can both rush and receive the ball. You got Brock Bowers, who can do damn near anything he wants to do. And you have GENO SMITH, who, look, I think we only have two or three games that are not in a dome next season. And GENO SMITH is elite indoors. So the thing that we need to focus on is right now we're talking about Chip Kelly and his evolution of his offense. That's something that's going to be really big for us. We're probably not going to see a lot of it going on in preseason, but we're going to see a lot of the concept as far as vanilla stuff, running the football a lot of short passes and I just want to see guys getting open in space. That's what I want. Quick hitters with guys open in space where, moving laterally and confusing the defense and be able to get guys in positions to be able to make plays. So that's a big one here. All right, next we're going to take a look at ESPN one more time with our buddies Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark. And let's take a peek. Also, Hannah Storm's there again, dude. Hannah Storm looks great, dude. I don't know how old she is. She's, I remember being like in middle school and she was doing like the NBA, thing. And she was on TV then. That was 30 years ago. And she looks awesome, man. All right, here we go.
They made some major moves this offseason, beginning in January when they reached an agreement with Pete Carroll to become their new head coach. Carroll won more playoff games from 2010 to 2019 than the Raiders franchise.
Do you hear that? Pete Carroll won more playoff games from 2010 to 2019 than the Raiders have won in their entire history. Just think about that for a second. I'm going to repeat it again in case you guys didn't hear. Pete Carroll, between the years of 2010 and 2019, won more playoff games than the Raiders have won in their entire franchise history. This is the type of coach we're getting, guys. Okay? All right, let's keep going.
As one as a whole. Now, in early March, they signed Maxx Crosby to a 3-year extension. And at the time, he becomes the highest non-paid quarterback in the NFL. Since 2019, no one has more quarterback pressures. And then late in March, they acquired quarterback GENO SMITH from the Seahawks. He signs a 2-year extension this month. RC, very cool to see them back together. But the Raiders, they finished dead last in the AFC West, only 4 wins last season. So how much of a difference is this combo of Carroll and Smith going to make?
Well, Well, I mean, first off, it looks like this team is actually trying to win football games this year by the decisions that they're making in the offseason. Last year, you go into the season with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew at the quarterback position. You allow Josh Jacobs to go to the Green Bay Packers, and we saw the impact that he had there. So this team is doing something that's essentially totally opposite from last year and saying we are trying to win right now. They know that Pete Carroll will instill a culture, but with that culture, you need good football players, and that starts with GENO Smith. That starts with the ascension that he has had over the last few years and becoming one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, but also listening to him. He's a great leader. He's a man who has understood his adversity, learned from that adversity, and can now impart that on the younger people in that locker room. I believe this is a great start for this team as a leadership position goes from the head coach and the quarterback, but they have to add more players if they want to contend with the likes of the Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Denver Broncos.
Love what he said about Geno and Pete Carroll, but this is not a quick fix contender in Las Vegas. This defense has been bad 3 out of the last 4 seasons. And really, if you look at the makeup of the football team, this is a defense that's bottom 5 or bottom 6 in 3 out of the last 4 seasons. That 2023 season where they ended the season so well made them top 10. There's only 2 real difference makers on this defense, Maxx Crosby being one and Christian Wilkins being the other. He obviously has to stay healthy. So ASHTON JEANTY, a playmaker. This defense is so devoid of real talent. And RC mentions the division. You compare it to the Denver Broncos or the Kansas City Chiefs or the Chargers talent. They don't. Now, there's some decent, solid players, but difference makers, there's 2. So I look at this as we really have to philosophically try to change who our defense has been over the last 4 or 5 seasons.
You know, you kind of saw some good.
All right. That's something that this is something, again, that I wanted to highlight here. The defense does need to improve. Now, the last time we saw some sort of iteration of this defense as a whole was the end of the 2023 season. Now, let's take a look at both sides of this coin, because I love the Raiders, but I'm not like a blind-eyed homer, okay? I can look at things objectively. Yes, in that stretch that was able to, at the end of 2023, we only played 2 starting quarterbacks. I understand that. We played Tua and we played Mahomes, and we went 1-2 against those guys. The rest of the quarterbacks that we played were backup quarterbacks. So I could see how that can go into it. But the formula was there. The formula was realized how to play as a defense during that time. Get pressure with 4, drop your linebackers, and play tight with your secondary. When the Raiders were able to do that at the end of the 2023 season, they were, during that span, the best defense in points per game, in takeaways, and defensive scores. All right? So, when you take a look at that, stats are stats, right? I get it. You can turn a stat a bunch of different ways. I understand that. But when you take a look at something and it's the best in certain categories, look, points per game, that's a pretty important category. Takeaways, that's a pretty important category. Defensive touchdowns, defensive scores, that's a pretty important category. So, are they the best in the league now? No, but they're not bottom 5, bottom 6. When you take a look at when Patrick Graham was given the ability with a healthy defense to be able to coach the defense the way he wanted to, that's when the defense started to spark and be a lot better. Last season, it's really tough. It's really tough to judge this Raiders defense off of last season because so many of the players were hurt. You had Epps go down right away. Jacorian Bennett was in and out. Hobbs was in and out. You lose Maxx. You lost Kuntz before the season even started. You lost Wilkins. Diablo missed a game or 2, I think. And it was just a bad situation, man. It was a bad situation. It only made worse, compounded by so many players being gone. Yeah, Raider Black, exactly. Don't be a blind-eyed homer. There's nothing worse than the guy that you can't talk to. Like, there's nothing worse than a guy that you can't have a discussion with because they're like, no, So that's why I hesitate to fully agree with. No, did anything that Dan Orlovsky say was any of that wrong? No, it wasn't. They were bottom 5, bottom 6, 3 of the last 4 years. They were top 10 when they were able to play defense the way they wanted to play defense, and they were healthy. Well, they're healthier now. They have the Pete Carroll style of long, tall, fast corners. We have Jeremy Chin I believe he's gonna have a breakout year this year. That dude, I watched him some tape on him, and it's pretty boring because a lot of it was him just cutting off targets, and not a lot was thrown his way. So I didn't make a video on it, but I watched some tape on his play last season with the who am I talking about? With the Commanders, and he's pretty damn good, man. So he's built like a freaking linebacker, dude. The guy's huge. So what we're taking a look at here is, now we talked a little bit about the offense, right, with Chip Kelly, and how his philosophy is not like this, fast break, speeded up offense anymore. It's a more pro style, a play action, run the ball, get the ball open in space, take the shots down the field when you have them, really stretch out the defense and find the gaps. That's what Chip Kelly is going to bring offensively. Defensively, it's Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham really thinking of and coaching up this defense and getting them to where Pete Carroll wants it. Pete Carroll, his secondaries have always been extremely proficient at taking away the ball. I see if we can get these guys going on the defensive line, we're going to have a much different result takeaway wise on this defense. So that's to Dan Orlovsky's point. And these are things that I don't really hear a lot in the media right now when it comes to the Raiders, because they don't really go as in depth as these guys are going right now. This is a little bit more Ryan Clark.
Things from Palomar last year, if you really watch the film, and now you add Eric Stokes to the outside. What will Jeremy Chin give him? I felt like Washington played him in a way that sort of accentuated his positive and kept him away from his weaknesses. The one thing is every week that Maxx Crosby is going to be a war daddy, with Christian Wilkins, if healthy, being able to push him inside. What makes me think that this team can be better is if you can get Devin White to play at a level we saw him play in Tampa Bay. Landon Roberts, a great first and second down, or very good first and second down linebacker. So they tried to add some pieces, but I think it's all about what Pete Carroll can imprint on this defense. And if that culture can take over a little bit this year, I believe it can not only elevate this team, but elevate some of those players that have underperformed.
A huge part too, RC. First round pick 2 years ago, Tyree Wilson. Can he do something to get on the field and make an impact?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Second time in the last 3 drafts that they've had a top 10 pick, and they took Wilson back in 23.
Yeah, Tyree Wilson, look, these foot injuries are kind of funky, man. So if he hasn't come back fully from these injuries and for a couple of seasons, this is a kind of a make or break year for him, man. He needs to go out there and really show what he has, because the physical tools for Tyree Wilson are there. The opportunity for him to be a bigger part of this lineup is there. Is he going to take advantage of it? We'll see. It's not going to be for lack of trying, and it's not going to be for lack of ingenuity, really. I think Pete Carroll and Rob Leonard and Patrick Graham are really going to think of a lot of really interesting ways to use him on that defensive line. Funky Hair, man, as far as the nose, we may play without a true nose. Honestly, we might just play more of a single gap and go type defense. We don't really have a guy that can stack and shed, right? Just stack a guard or stack a center and play 2 gaps. Like, we don't really have a 2-gap defensive lineman right now. So, I've seen Tyree Wilson do it with his long arms. I've seen him stack, guards before when he played on the inside. But we don't really have a true nose right now. So we're going to have to maybe just get a guy and say, this is your gap. Just shoot that gap and try to get into the backfield. And the good thing is, if you guys, I hope you guys did, if you watched the tape of of a JJ Pegues and Tonka Hemingway, that's basically their game, is shooting a single gap and making plays in the backfield. So, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it after we're done with this, because you're going to get to see their game as just a slasher type guy getting in the backfield and causing some havoc. All right, let's get over real quick to Fox Sports. We're going to have a couple of these guys talk a little bit about the Raiders moving forward this season.
Okay.
Here's a stat that will make you say, gee, yes, about Geno. Most wins in the last 3 seasons. Where's Bruce Guy Purdy?
Well, remember,
guys, look at this stat. The most wins the last 3 seasons. Mahomes 39, Hurts 37, Allen 37, Goff 36, Lamar 33, Geno 27. Pretty good. Pretty good. I don't know if for those who weren't too sold on the Geno Smith, he wins games, man.
he only played half of his first season.
Goff, Lamar, Geno. Bro,
No.
are you ready
First
to join?
of all, Chip, slow down. A blessing. What I wish I had written down a special.
Yeah.
A second coach on the field.
No, in the room.
In the room. A blessing to
Yes.
slow down, Chip, all right? No. As in Geno. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon.
Okay.
I like Geno. I'm glad he's resurrected.
You've obviously
What?
liked Geno.
Because I have to say he's awesome.
No,
Because he's resurrected his career,
Led the league in
become a
completion
top
percentage.
half of the league quarterback.
Maybe
I
top
like
10.
Geno. No, because here's the deal. So I'm just saying, we love Geno on this show, and you rip Purdy, yet Purdy at his worst.
I was not.
At his worst hour was better than
When
Geno.
did I hear?
Beyond that, Nick, I don't get your love, well, not love, but your affinity for the Raiders.
Well,
now.
I think
Pete Carroll's not immune to losing, all right? And Geno is good, but not great. And I think they are, at best, the third best team in their division.
Why Lamar?
Whoa, sorry about that.
I think
Pete Carroll's not immune to losing.
My bad,
all
guys.
right? And Geno is good, but not great. And I think they are, at best, the third best team in their division.
Okay, so we can tell by this that Chris Broussard is just a straight hater. He's drinking on he's got an IV drip of haterade, because you want to take a look at last season. Last season wasn't statistically Geno Smith's best season. He was missing DK Metcalf for a couple of games. He missed how's his other guy's name for a lot of games. He had no running game last season. He had poor offensive line play. So last season wasn't a true season to look at. He had a very good completion percentage, Geno Smith did, but there was a lot. It wasn't like Chris Broussard tried to talk down the situation with Brock Purdy and talk up the situation with Geno Smith when they both had less than optimal situations. And there was no opposition brought up by the rest of the cast, because they're just not knowledgeable enough of what happened last year with Geno Smith and his situation. Because again, most of these guys are just about highlights and stats, and they don't really get to dig into what really happened during the season. So Chris Broussard is a little bit misguided here. I think he's really trying to talk up the poor situation of Brock Purdy, and he's trying to talk up the good situation of Geno Smith, and neither one are extremely accurate. Let's see what we've got to say here.
Why can they not be better than the Chargers?
Because I think the Chargers both have really good coaches.
Yes.
The Chargers, I think their quarterback is better. I think you would agree with that.
Maybe. I mean, I think the Chargers at quarterback is far more talented. There is no question about it. But
That's a great point. Talent and production, two different things. It's two different things.
He's put up numbers Geno can only dream of.
I understand that, yet Geno has, despite not putting up those types of numbers, we don't think of the worst moments of Geno's career being the biggest moments of his career like we do for Herbert. But
Bro, Did someone leave a window open in here? Because I just felt a cold snap. That's true. We don't think of Geno Smith folding under pressure in the biggest moments. We definitely think of Justin Herbert folding in the playoffs for sure. That's a great point.
I also think that the Raiders, so here's the deal. I am looking at the Raiders. There is a schedule component, which is a last place schedule, which is extra beneficial in the AFC West because your divisional games are so hard to begin with. So we can play the same game that we play with the Niners as far as, all right, the divisional games are what they are. Everybody plays them. And then they have, compared to everyone else in the division, the most fortuitous schedule. They also, I think, were bottom 3 in the league at 3 wildly important spots. Head coach, and they got a guy who might be a Hall of Famer one day. Quarterback, and they got a guy who the last few years has been fringe top 10. And offensive coordinator, the guy you just heard talking, they went from Luke Getsy to Chip Kelly.
Okay, I said it before. The 3 most important people in your organization that are on the field are your head coach, are your offensive coordinator, and your quarterback. And we had a massive upgrade in each position. Excellent point, my Nick. Look, another point that we're talking about here. This is why I chose these clips. These guys are talking about stuff that not a lot of people are talking about when they talk about the Raiders. You hear, Geno and Pete Carroll are reunited, or Pete Carroll's bringing the vibe, and he's bringing the excitement and this and that and all this other stuff. And like, no. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes of what's happening to this Raider team. This Raider team is making big jumps, big leaps in chunks. On his best day, with his dreams coming true, Antonio Pierce could only dream of becoming a head coach as good as Pete Carroll. Because basically they're the same guy. Defensive-minded, tough, hard-nosed approach. They can connect with players. That's where the similarities end. Talk about strategy, we talk about attention to detail, scheduling, just organization, that stuff, a future mindset, right? That stuff is all heavily weighted on the Pete Carroll side. I think you tap it if you would have stuck with Antonio Pierce, you would have hoped that he would have eventually grown into Pete Carroll, or you just get Pete Carroll, who's just that much better than anyone we've had at head coach for quite some time. You get a guy who shows up at Ohio State and wins a national championship. Not only that, but transforms his offense to be a more pro-style offense where he had not 1 but 2 1,000-yard rushers. He had not 1 but 2 extremely productive wide receivers. He had a quarterback who was bounced around from a couple different schools, not able to start really in a couple different spots. And he pretty much got him into the national championship and won the national championship game. 3 massive upgrades. Geno Smith is probably the best quarterback we've had on this team for a long time. I'm talking about collectively, okay? I'm not saying anything negative against Derek Carr because I did like Derek Carr's ability. The production and it wasn't always there. It was very streaky. Geno Smith is very comparable arm talent-wise to Derek Carr. I think he's a little bit stronger arm, but he's much more mobile than Derek Carr was, or much more mobile than Derek Carr was willing to be. So that's a big plus. Massive upgrade, especially over last season in the quarterback position. So this is something that not a lot of people are talking about. They're just talking about, oh yeah, Pete Carroll, this and that, blah blah blah. He's gonna bring these plucky Raiders back to prominence. Like, no, we're not looking just to be respectable. We're looking to go out there and we're looking to win. We're looking to bash some friggin' heads in, right? And when you take a look at the massive upgrade we've had in the 3 most important people on your field, huge upgrade in each one of those spots. I don't know, man. I think Nick's on to something. Let's hear what else he got to say.
Who Chip Kelly, we can question him as an NFL head coach, even though he actually was oddly fine.
Early on,
dislike.
And maybe a little too, innovative in certain ways, whatever it is.
Ben Johnson.
But maybe a little bit. But his offense, but he's obviously a better designer of offense. And they added the player in this draft most likely to be an All-Pro as a rookie.
Okay. That's another one that not a lot of people are talking about. People have talked about ASHTON JEANTY, right? But we've seen running backs come into the NFL and just boom, right away. So running back is a position with, if you have the right offensive line coach, if you have the right offensive coordinator, if you have the right offensive system, where this guy can come in from college and just go out there and start firing. Okay, so that's another point that really has not been made too often. Okay, let's keep listening.
ASHTON JEANTY, because we've seen that from running backs instantly come on. So I think the Raiders, when you go from awful quarterback to good, awful head coach situation to good, awful coordinator situation to good, and then have a soft schedule and add that guy, you can win 10 games.
I'm going to be honest, and you guys know, I feel like I'm the running back guy on this show.
Yeah.
I've got to see it from Jeanty.
Wow.
And
Hater. Chris Broussard must have lost a bet because he's just talking absolute nonsense right now. Okay, there's more.
I'm probably holding the Boise State thing against him. But I got to, before I sign off on, because you're right.
Well, and the line.
Rookie running backs have they can come in right in the league. And the offensive line, I'm not sold that he's going to come into the league and run for 1,500 yards.
Bro, Chris Broussard is taking a double dose of that haterade, man. Wow. Oh, man. Okay. What have we heard from these guys? These are some of the things that I've been talking about along the way, but I like to hear that this is stuff that the narrative is expanding a little bit when it comes to the Raiders. I think the most important and the one that we need to highlight the most out of all the things that we heard today are the three most important spots on your team: your head coach, your quarterback, and your offensive coordinator. Massive upgrades from last season, massive upgrades from the last few seasons or the last 10 seasons. Who knows? But they are massive upgrades. On top of that, you have continuity defensively, right? You have a defensive-minded head coach who can assist in positioning, in overall game planning, and just style systems for, kind of very penthouse view type stuff. And then let the position coaches and Patrick Graham take care of all the little granular level stuff, the minutia, right? On top of that, you have Chip Kelly coming in, who has probably one of the better pedigrees as an offensive coordinator than you can get. This guy is not, he's not a head coach because he was bad. He stepped down as head coach at UCLA because he didn't like the way college football was going. It was too much of a headache. He just wanted to coach offense. And now he's being paid quite handsomely, mind you, to be an offensive coordinator with the Raiders. So I think he's doing pretty well for himself. So that's a big one right there. The next one that I heard that was really something that we would want to focus on is the fact that not only is Chip Kelly the offensive coordinator, but how his system and how his outlook on offense has changed. He said so. If you guys listen to the press conference he did on the OTAs, is sometimes you're going to win a game 9-6. Sometimes you're going to win 38-37. It all about the matchups, who you have available, and the game plan you put out there. So he's able to switch up his game plan per his opponent to be able to attack the opponent in specific ways and to highlight the players that he has. That's an excellent thing. It's a huge departure from what we have with Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, and to a certain extent, John Gruden, were pretty much like, here's my system. You guys need to run just slot into what I already do type of thing, where I don't know if that's necessarily the way that Chip Kelly is going to run this offense. Hopefully he doesn't, because he has a lot better weapons than he had in the past. All right, guys. Well, guys, super chats are open if you guys are available. if you guys want to talk about different topics, one of the things too that wasn't touched on, but Orlovsky kind of brushed on top of it. What are you doing over there? Cat's getting a little funky over there. Is the fact that this defense is now healthy, right? Christian Wilkins may miss some time, but Malcolm Kuntz is back on the field. I just dropped a Malcolm Kuntz video earlier today. Hope you guys watched it. But he's back. Christian Wilkins hopefully is going to be back before the end of the year, and we'll see. We got Tyree Wilson one more year separated from that surgery that he had on his foot. So we'll see what's going on with these guys. We have an exciting, Devin White was another person that was named as far as a guy that can really run and play at a high level at one point in time. If you can keep Devin White's feet clean, if you can keep defenders off of his feet, he's going to do some plays. He's going to make some plays for you, right? He's super fast. He's really instinctual. And if you can kind of hone him a little bit and put him in a little bit more stricter role, I think he can definitely pay big dividends for the Raiders. All right, guys. Well, I said we're slowing down here, so we're going to go ahead and end this. Want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. It's an excellent way to support the channel. It's absolutely free to do, and it's the bare minimum you can do to support the channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video. Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if that would get Jalen Ramsey, dude. He's really, really, really expensive, and he would cost a lot to get. And I don't know that that's necessarily the route that Pete Carroll and John Spytek want to go. Guys, if you want to make sure that your question gets on board, we got the super chats open. So if you want to have a subject pop up, super chats are the way to go to make sure that your topic or your question is highlighted. So I'm trying to bring out content for you guys every single day. I got a couple of stuff happening for the rest of this week. I got a video coming out every single day for the rest of this week, and then we'll see what's going on for next week. It's kind of a dead period, so if I skip a day here and there, don't get crazy on me. There's not a lot of news happening right now in this part of June, heading into the later part of when the training camp starts. But I'm going to try my best to give you guys good content. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I really appreciate you guys. We're building a community here, and you guys are really helping out a lot, building this community. I'm doing this for Raider Nation, man. It's all about us, because once we leave here, it's everybody against us, and I think that's just the way we like it. So make sure everyone, please tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell your baby mamas, tell everybody. Raiders versus the world is a great thing going to Raider Nation today. All right, guys, that's my time. Till next time, everybody. Peace.